up the next match. So here we have the Hukinator. Hukinator, of course, as Jeffrey says, the most recent GOAT. One of the more recent top players to come out in Rivals. Really, he's like been dominating the local scene recently. Also, and very important to note that Hukinator is the world champ. He did win the world championships, which we hosted 2 years ago now, something like that.
Oh yeah,
and,
probably. That sounds about
B
right.
has talked a lot of smack. I think this is very important to note. Hukinator is infamous for saying that the older players are kind of bad. He's watched them play. He thinks they can't possibly compete with the players who are good these days.
Oh man, that's true too, isn't it?
So there's a lot on the line here for this one.
Oh, that's interesting. I forgot all about that. Yeah, so got to put your money where your mouth is, Hukinator.
Yep,
you better
absolutely.
show what you're saying, right? Holy cow.
Interestingly, he says, who will win the GOAT tournament? He says, this is an interesting one. I think that with 40%, I have the highest individual chance. So I think with 60%, somebody else will win. Well, there you go. So he thinks that he's the favorite, but still doesn't put himself above 50% to win.
Interesting.
And then here we have Srpss, who I love this picture. That is a picture of Srpss with his Rivals Coliseum trophies lined in front of him.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Oh,
Greatest Rivals achievement, winning the €500 prize tournament. Other notable achievements, being 3-0 Alicia multiple times as super casual. Dominating Rivals for some time with Terran in Team Bulgaria. Titan deck enjoyer. First Mutant Chuggy player. That's true. Srpss invented Mutant Chuggy.
Yeah.
Since then, they nerfed and have never been as strong. Yep, also true. Interesting fact about yourself. I am the most casual Rivals player. Less games than any top 100 player. Classic Srpss. And then who will win the GOAT tournament? Srpss. So Srpss also backing himself here.
Yep. Oh,
right,
well, interesting, right? Both these
Hukinator.
players think they're going to win, so...
Hukinator versus Srpss. Our first map is going to be Broken Mesa, and then we're going to have Rorschach and then Slashed Fields if we need a tiebreaker. So far, we have not had a tiebreaker game.
Yeah, so far. Yeah, they've all been decided in 2 games, so...
Yeah. Okay.
Well, let's see if this will be the same, eh? Let's get into game number 1.
Let's do it. Srpss taking on the Hukinator. There's a lot on the line here, you know, because, as I say, Hukinator has repeatedly stated that he believes the old players cannot possibly keep up with the newer players. He says, I've watched them play back in the day. They're not as good as the new good players. He's like, I'm the best of the new good players, and all my mates could beat them as well.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll see if that's true, eh?
Got some very classic decks here. This is almost like, I mean, not quite a mirror, because obviously Banshee and Razorback are not the same, but very similar decks. 2-3-1 from both players.
And Oxana versus Solomon, of course. That's a big difference too.
Of course, that is a big difference as well, yeah. But it is a tank mirror, but of course, as we all know, tank mirror does heavily favor the Predator tank. Heavily favors the Predator tank.
And actually, Hukinator famously thinks that the Scorpion tank is better than the Predator too, so... All right, here we go. Missile number 1. We got that lone dog going over to the right. The wheels probably won't kill it in time, although it is very, very low in hit points. But we see Hukinator nice blocking on the middle. The Predator should win this. It's going to be very close. Oh, but it's a trade instead. That said, though, Srpss having the Pipple at the top meant that he takes the missile.
Very, very strong. Honestly, like getting a trade with Scorpion versus Predator, that's a good play. But Srpss, he uses that lone dog to go and claim that bottom pad. Hukinator doesn't respond in time, and that ends up, of course, being the missile. Now, as to what you were saying about the Scorpion being better than the Predator, I think that's a pretty common opinion. A lot of people prefer Scorpion to Predator. However, one of the things that Predator is very good at is beating Scorpion.
Yes, exactly. The shot differences matter a lot when it's just tank versus tank. Obviously, there's other factors at play here, like we got bikes and wheels and, you know, there's shocks and whatever all out on the field. So, of course, that can change the picture a little bit. That's probably why Hukinator says that, because the movement speed of the Scorpion means that its timing on its lock-on and how it flies out and in is different. But,
it moves faster
overall,
and
like,
it fires faster.
Yeah, so I can understand from a micro perspective that the Scorpion tank is favored, but from a pure stats perspective, the Predator tank is favored. But,
Yeah.
you know, having said that here, Srpss really pushing back here. We got that Pitbull on the middle pad, the boosted tank clearing up, but the wheels make it on the pad just in time. We couldn't get a block there. We see at the top there as well with the bikes trying to push on against the shocks. It's only going to be a matter of time here because the bikes do actually get on there, and the shock token would have gone down in time. We do see the wheels hanging out at the bottom there, so Srpss might make a push, but we see that he's just going to sit in the middle there. We got the wheels cycling in and out as well. Hukinator having almost getting that top pad there, but these wheels are going to go down here just a moment, so Srpss just needs to get a block on the wheels, but doesn't. Almost getting it there, and the Scorpion tank really trying to push on here. It will eventually clear up the shock trooper, and it should make a push here, but an ion cannon coming down to clear up that only... Oh, the tank and the two bikes coming in. Very nice play. Now we just need to get a block with the Pitbull, and he doesn't quite get there. Oh my goodness, this game is just going on and on. We're at 3 minutes already, and no player is really pushing for the top or the bottom pad. It just seems like Hukinator is the one that's really cycling the units here. But
he messed it up at the end.
Wow, Hukinator doesn't get the bottom pad, and Srpss winning that first game. Wow, very close. Very close.
I gotta say, very nice leapfrogging by Hukinator there. You see how Srpss was blocking the middle pad from the front. So Hukinator brought his unit from the bottom up, sent a new unit down to the bottom pad, did that repeatedly, kept the missile going forever doing that. Really nice play by Hukinator. However, I think his deck is not favored. The Scorpion is bad versus the Predator. That is a pretty big negative. He never switched into Banshee, which he probably needed to do near the end there. He didn't really have enough money, so that's the way it goes.
I mean, you can probably speak to this way better than, well, of course you can, but when you're up against, like, the level of skill from your opponent makes a huge difference in how you play the game. Like, obviously it does, but what I'm getting at is sometimes you're taxed by how much is going on, right? And I think that's going to be one of the issues in this tournament, is that all these players are really well versed in pumping units out rapidly and very good micro, you know, all that stuff, right? And that changes things in terms of, you know, how much decision-making space you feel like you have. Because, like Quasar, for example, he's really makes you feel like you're suffocated in terms of what you can do. And all these players have that capability. So I'm curious about how that's going to shape these matches, because this is something that we really haven't seen a lot of before. And I feel like that played out a little bit here, where Srpss was really just pushing Hukinator so hard that, you know, obviously the Predator tank makes a big difference there too, but still, like, you could tell he was a little bit taxed, because like you say, the Banshee would have been a good tech switch, but it's so hard to think of those strategic options in these moments.
I think Huck simply didn't have the money to switch into the Banshee, and that's probably largely because he was using Oksana boost so frequently, which he had to get the tempo because he was losing the game. As you say, yes, you can create what I call a micro tax, which is where, for example, when those bikes were trying to reach the top pad, Hukinator is constantly standing the bikes up there. Srpss has to constantly block. Then Hukinator does something else on the middle. Srpss has to do something there to respond. When Srpss responds to the middle, he can no longer maintain the block on the top. Hukinator gets through. Because Hukinator is doing too many things for Srpss to respond to all of them equally. If you are able to create multiple locations where your opponent has to interact with you to get favorable trades or to block you, and you can do more than they can do because you have better micro, you will end up getting small advantages over and over and over throughout the game. Whereas if you end up having a single fight in like a single location where you only have to control like 2 units each, you don't get that advantage of controlling more units and doing more things, because every player is capable of controlling 2 units simultaneously, for example. But if you make it 4 units, suddenly there are players that fall apart. They can't do all 4 units simultaneously. Now, with the Predator versus Scorpion, there is an argument that the Scorpion is better because there's a technique you can use where, because the Scorpion reloads faster, you can trade shots at the start because the lock-on time is the same, so the tanks will shoot at the same time first shot. Second shot, the Predator will lock on first because it reloads first. If you time it right, you can trade a shot, then aim and run, shoot with the Scorpion tank, get a blocker in the way, the Predator can't chase you, the Predator won't shoot back, and you can get 2 shots for every 1 Predator shot. This is what allows Scorpion to defeat Predator in a 1v1 or, well, 2v2 with a second blocker unit involved on both sides. This is what makes some players say Scorpion is just strictly better, because it also moves faster, has higher fire rate. There's very few situations where a Predator is better than a Scorpion. Notable ones are versus Chuggy, where Predator 2 shots is huge, a difference.
Right.
And in the Tank Mirror, where Predator 3 shots and Scorpion 5 shots, which is a massive difference. However, if you can accurately use the Scorpion micro to get the double shot and retreat without taking a second shot back, you can beat the Scorpion. You can beat the Predator only taking 2 shots on the Scorpion, which is really fucking difficult to do, and against good players it's even harder. But theoretically, that allows Scorpion to beat Predator in a heads up, and therefore, if the Scorpion wins in a heads up, it's just a strictly better unit. Like, there's almost no time when Predator is better if the Scorpion can win the heads up. But that is extremely micro-intensive, and it is counterable by the opposing player. What the opposing player has to do is, when the initial trade happens where they both shoot, the Predator has to retreat first, so the Scorpion can't get the lock on, followed by retreat. Anyway, lesson over. Let's get into game number 2.
But that's Rivals, right? Oh man, good stuff. Okay, yeah, let's kick it off here. We're on Rorschach for game number 2. Ooh, GDI grudge match. Okay, Hukinator moving off of Nod. Interesting. Almost saying that, yeah, maybe Predator is better than Scorpion. And looks like okay, interesting. He's got Rhino instead of Pitbull, and he's got Hammerhead to replace that anti-air roll. Very interesting. And Srpss here, it looks like he's playing the same deck, I believe. So no changes there. But I don't know about this deck from Hukinator.
Yeah, so Hukinator is a huge Rhino fan. Like, Hukinator, probably one of the big reasons that Rhino is so popular now. He pushed it hard. When Rhino got that buff, he's like, yeah, Rhino's cracked. Everyone should play Rhino. He played a lot of Rhino, and a lot of people started playing Rhino to copy, basically. I would say he's kind of the progenitor of the Rhino meta. So I'm not super surprised to see him make a Rhino. I'm a little surprised he doesn't open Rhino, though. I feel like that's one of the best things about Rhino, is if you have a Rhino in your deck, you make it first. There's, like, no unit that's good against Rhino at the start of the game. So it's just always going to give you a nice advantage. He probably just wanted to play a Predator Mirror. I suspect after that game, he was like, you know what? I didn't win with Scorpion versus Predator. That was the biggest issue in that game. I just want to play my own Predator and see what happens with that.
So Hukinator here pushing out the Rhinos, just like you said. He's got them here in numbers. The Predator trying to get a shot on the other Predator, but nice movement from Srpss, pulling it away from the shocks there, so that the Predator doesn't get the lock on and hit the returning Predator tank, but doesn't really matter too much. Hukinator does secure the missile here with those 2 Rhinos, as he did have that early game positioning with the 2 missiles that came out, and Srpss not having Rifleman to respond to that meant that he did get pushed back a little bit there. So missile number 1 goes to Hukinator.
Yeah, and you can see how good the Rhino was there. They both had a blocker unit. One was Rhino, one was Shock. The Rhino obviously kills the Shocks very quickly, and the Shocks do nothing to the Predator/Rhino combo, which was a large part of why Hukinator wins that first missile.
Unit ready.
Yeah, the Rhino's interesting, right? Because it has the same hit points as a Pitbull, but only costs 30. And that's one of the big advantages it has over Buggy as an example, because Buggy has about, I think it's like 1,200 and something hit points. I can't remember the exact number. But, you know, that's pretty important because that means it might survive another shot, or, you know, it lives a little bit longer. And as you see here, it's really doing a great job against pushing Srpss here. I mean, the Rhino is decent to get missiles. It will win 1v1. So it's not really a great proposition to keep spamming missiles to deal with it.
Unit ready.
Yeah, I mean, you can see how much advantage Hukinator is getting by just being able to jam a Rhino in Srpss's face. And Srpss is like, well, I have to make Predator to fight the Rhino, but then it gets shot by his Predator. I can't waste shots on the enemy Rhino whilst I'm trying to fight a Predator tank. So even though the Predator is good versus both Hukinator's units, and Hukinator's units are only good versus one of each of Srpss's, it ends up actually being quite good for Hukinator.
Unit ready.
Now look at this, we got the tech switch into the Razorback, and Srpss not responding too quickly. Does have the Pitbulls coming out, but because Hukinator's got the Predator tanks, as well as he had the Rhino there too, he's really pushing Srpss back quite effectively. We see Srpss trying to make his way back into this game, and he doesn't have to worry too much here, but it looks like Hukinator's going to secure the second missile pretty comfortably. Yeah, Srpss just can't make it back on, so there it is, missile
really,
number 2,
like,
pretty dominant game.
Big tempo advantage as well for Hukinator there, which I think came from the Rhino more than anything else. Like the Rhino,
it did.
The Rhino plus Predator,
MVP.
Rhino Predator and Buggy Scorpion is so good, right? Like we've seen this time and time again in this meta that you can win games with basically just those 2 units. Like there's loads of games where your opponent's entire deck struggles against Buggy Scorp or Predator Rhino, and Hukinator just kind of smashed that one. Like I think Srpss probably doesn't feel great about that game. What happened there, honestly, is a classic situation in Command & Conquer Rivals, which is in a War Factory mirror, which a lot of games devolve into, because War Factory tends to be the most powerful building in the game. What happens a lot of the time is the player that can use missiles effectively ends up winning. This is why
yeah, right.
Chuggy
Yep.
was such a big deal for such a long time. Because if you had missiles and they had missiles and you had Chuggy, you slaughtered their missiles. And then you could use missiles and they couldn't really use missiles. So that's kind of what happened here, right? Like, Hukinator was much more able to use missiles than Srpss was. Because every time infantry came out from Srpss, Hukinator would just put a Rhino and put a Predator driving through it. And you can't really use missiles against that, because you can't walk your missiles into a Rhino. But when Srpss makes a missile, Hukinator just jams his combo straight into its face, because the Rhino will beat the missile, and if he comes with the Predator, Hukinator's Predator shoots back, and then you've wasted your Predator shot. Well, wasted. You've used a Predator shot on a Rhino, then you take a hit back. It's just super awkward. It's super awkward for Srpss. So
Yeah, it's true, right? Yeah,
his best situation there is to use that iron cannon, because also Hukinator, this also, not to go to Professor Blade right now, but this was a classic example of why people didn't like Solomon for a really long time as well. Because every game back in the day, or the vast majority of them, would end up in a War Factory mirror where both players were fighting with tanks against each other or something similar. The player who uses boost a bunch of times gets a tempo advantage by using the boost. The other player cannot afford to use their commander power because it costs 130.
Yeah,
so it's
that's a good
effectively, the
point.
Solomon player doesn't have a commander power. Like, Srpss never used Solomon. So he just played without a commander the entire game. Huck used his boost like 3 times. So that's a massive advantage for Huck. He got to use his commander power over and over and over, and Srpss never used his. And that's something that happened frequently back in the day. And that is why people didn't like Solomon for ages, because so many games were tank mirrors. And tank mirrors, you can't afford Solomon very frequently, unless, like, Solomon is something you put money into when you have money left over. If you're in a tank mirror, you have to keep making expensive units, and you can't afford Solomon. You can, however, afford a boost. That's something you have enough money to do. You occasionally can throw 30 into a boost. Even if you think about it, Huck used boost maybe 3 times that game. Even if Srpss saves up that 90 from using no boosts, he still can't afford an iron cannon. If Huck uses another boost, we're at 120. Srpss still can't afford an iron cannon. Right?
That's true. Yeah.
It's just, so Hukinator just has a commander and Srpss doesn't, and that's a huge advantage for Hukinator.
Yep. Absolutely, yeah, and actually you saw like Srpss did have enough money to spam out an ion cannon, but I don't know if it was maybe the wrong situation. It clearly wasn't close enough to the missile firing, I think, was probably part of the
Alicia
reason.
is complaining in chat that he did an iron cannon. Alicia said,
Yeah,
you have iron in all caps, 2 tanks, a Rhino missile in one spot, doesn't use cannon, fire the cannon, bro, oh my god, big time through. So yeah, there's
Easy
a
to say
case
as
to
a
be
viewer,
made that
though, right?
Srpss should have used his iron cannon there.
Yeah, probably. Well, he's got another shot at this. I don't know if he's going to pick GD. I can't remember if that's what that faction was for his rank. But either way, this is our first tiebreaker. So let's get into it, shall we?
Yeah, I'm very excited for the actual first tiebreaker game.
Control.
All right, it looks like both players might be playing the same deck. I wouldn't be surprised to see Hukinator play the same deck. All 3 of these maps in this matchup have been very similar. And yeah, actually, so Hukinator sticking with the same thing. We do see Srpss switching into Slingshot, which does make some sense. Not having the Pitbull probably isn't a huge loss, like the Predator v Predator matchup is still going to be a challenge here for Srpss, as you pointed out, you know, the fact that Rhino can absorb shots from the opposing Predator tank, but you know, maybe he's got another game plan in mind.
Maybe, and we do see, yeah, as you say, the iron cannon. Are these not? These are exactly the same decks, right?
I think
wait,
Slingshot
there was a
versus-
Pitbull
instead
before,
of
wasn't
Predator,
there?
right? Or Pitbull,
Yeah.
I mean. Yeah, I think it was Pitbull, yeah. And here we see the same thing playing out, right? We see Predator early from Srpss, though. Very interesting. He got the dogs as well, so that's really good. Now the Shock's coming out to deal with the missiles, but it's kind of the same situation we saw before, where the Rhino was able to get shots off against the Shock Troopers. And even though it does take shots from the opposing Predator tank, we see Hukinator coming out with his own now. And he's going to pair them up together, and it's going to be Rhino Predator versus Shock Predator.
Yeah, what would be a really big deal here would be if Srpss can get to that Razorback, because the Razorback changes the situation where he can't use missiles, because if Hukinator's using missiles, Razorback can clean them up easily. So that lets Srpss get into a situation where his opponent is not using missiles efficiently.
And speaking efficiently, this is where that boost is really paying off here. As you saw, that boost won that tank matchup in the middle, and that allowed Hukinator to easily win that matchup. So here he goes, missile number 1 again.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised to see Srpss just kind of bring this deck again. Like, I mean, no, it's a slight change, but it's basically the same sort of thing. He has the same situation where he just is struggling against Rhino tank. And he can make a lot of tanks and put himself in a situation where his units are ultra effective against Hukinator. But there's always going to be that one missile hanging out, right? Huck's always going to have one missile as part of his army. And that missile is going to be ultra efficient because Srpss has to make shocks every time. Every time it makes the shocks, the Rhino gets better. It's just Hukinator's unit composition is just very, very good here.
It is, and like you said, he needs to get to Razorback, but look at the time. The missile's about to fire. He doesn't have any time to really get it out. The ion cannon coming down, of course. Hukinator can get away from it just in time there. Although, we do see that maybe the dogs get onto the middle pad there and stall the missile just long enough. But hold on a minute. Can he get there in time? Oh, it's so close. Wow, the dogs get onto the left pad there just in the nick of time. We do see the missiles here almost clearing up the Predator tank, but he pulls it back behind the missiles. Very nice movement there from Hukinator. And now the Razorback coming from Hukinator onto the middle pad. This Predator tank's going to go down to the shocks, though. Oh, the slingshot coming out as well. Will clear it in time to clear up these missiles, but he moves the slingshot down, unfortunately. Oh, no.
He froze. He froze, chat. Srpss had it, I think. I think he had that missile, like... if he didn't move the slingshot, it would have easily cleaned up the Razorback. Then the missiles don't have time to move to the top pad. Oh, big throw.
Oh, my heart. Srpss.
Big throw. Big throw
what
from
happened
Srpss there.
Yeah,
and Hukinator, after losing his first game, he really was like, I gotta step this up because I've talked some smack about these people.
yeah, actually, right? He's gotta put his money where his mouth is. Absolutely. Oh,
all right,
wow.
There we go.
Woo. That was some high octane gaming for sure.
That is the first round of the Swiss completed. Now, of course, it is Swiss. For those who don't know what Swiss means, winners play winners, losers play losers is the simplest way to put it. So the 4 players who won round 1 of the Swiss will now play against each other. The 4 players who lost will play against each other. These matches are very important because anybody who loses this next match, anyone who loses in the 0-1 bracket cannot qualify for the knockout anymore. We do have a prize distribution. True. Our prize distribution does pay more for 7th place than 8th. So there will still be something to play for at 0-2. But if you go 0-2 here, if you're one of the 2 players who goes 0-2, you are eliminated